Like,
Oh, Julie,
I
wow.
should have had mine.
Marta, next time. Okay, everyone, welcome. We already started chit-chatting with the girls. I already know this session's going to be awesome, but today we are talking about processing. Leah's joining. Um, Today we're going to be learning a little bit more about processing triggers and emotions. It doesn't really matter what area of life. It doesn't matter if you're dating, if you're married, you're at the store, right? Things come up, and I had a session with someone recently, very special, and we were talking about processing triggers. And so, how do you do life without being mindful or paying attention? And that to me is the magical question. How do you do things without being mindful and realizing like, oh, I'm struggling here. Oh, my body's shutting down. Oh, I'm reacting, right? There's no other way we can, if I could say, flip the script, change our program, our narrative, unless we start to get mindful. I'm going to review a couple notes kind of quickly, and I want to allocate as much time as I can with you ladies about specific questions you have, or something specific if you would like me to guide you through. I did record actually a video that I will be, yes! This group session is getting better and better. Are you guys at Costco? Oh, jeez. You're on mute. Oh my goodness, these two girls.
Yeah, we are. We're
Okay.
getting dinner.
Nice.
Okay, perfect. Okay. This will be your portion for today. Okay.
Amen.
Those two are sisters. Okay, so um I'm going to go through a little bit of notes, and I think a lot about where life has taken me, like all, if I could say, the nuggets of wisdom that I've learned. I think like initially, before I started to do this work, we come from a certain family system, culture, community, and it's like this. And I remember the first time I experienced, if I could say, a culture shock was when I went to my graduate program, and everyone thought totally different than me. Everyone lived totally I guess I wasn't prepared how shocked I would be, like how different people do life and believe things differently, and one person's affected by this and the other person's not. And then when I started again working with different people and families, I was like, okay, I need to open up myself up more. And in the beginning, there's this fear. I don't know about you ladies, but sometimes it's like, am I believing in crazy things? Am I, like jumping off a cliff here with the things I'm opening up to? And, one of my first mentors explained, fear is not like of the Lord necessarily. There's a level of like, I sure reverence and respect, but when you're trying to experience freedom, but fear is holding you back and making you do the same thing, that's not going to help you grow. And so when I started to take courage to break out and believe, even if I'm going a different route, that my God is so good, he'll bring me back. And the level of relief I started to experience, the more I started to open up. I don't know why I'm talking about fear right now. I'm gonna flow. But yeah, that was almost paralyzing and crippling, because how do you receive help? How do you break patterns until someone says, hey, this is unhealthy, right? How do you do anything different and open up to wisdom if wisdom is going to take you to something grander and larger? So, you know, all this to say, the more we start to kind of create ideas and open ourselves to how we process. I posted this video a couple weeks ago about what's your association with life, things, people, anything. And when we as women have this creative ability to change our relationship, our perspective, our stance, to me, it's just mind-boggling how much freedom we can have in our psyche, in our body, in our emotions, in our life. And we get to create that. So one of my coaches is very big on, as she calls it, and I like this, biological maleness, femaleness, biological femininity and masculinity, basically. And one of the, I'm not going to go into all the principles, but one of them was women are known to birth. Not just known, it's what we're born to do. Women are born with value. They say men tend to be not to get too biological, but they tend to be the more disposable, what's the word? Person or whatever in nature, whereas they'll go out to protect, to help the woman survive in terms of she's born with value, reproductive value. Again, without going too deep into that, but going into women have the value to birth. That could be physical babies, that could be ideas, that could be the energy. Let me know if my internet is okay. It just said it's unstable.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if it's my internet or
Oh
if it's you.
dear.
No, I'm hearing it too.
Oh, was it just that last part, or is it this whole?
Yeah, like the last 15 seconds.
Okay. Okay. So women they birth, they create. We create in our psyche, in our bodies, within us. We're the inward beings, and that gives us so much power to start to tune inward and recognize what's working for us, what's bothering, what's triggering us. And if you have started inner work, in the beginning, it feels like, what in the world? Why is all of a sudden everything triggering me? And that just means, welcome. You are now turning online your heart and your brain, and you are now recognizing things that have always been there. And instead of you being, blind or dissociated or just going with the routine and just doing things, you're starting to notice things. And when something is bothering you, guess what you get to do? You can out-create all the triggers. You can find that resolution. And I'll break it down into like this. Sometimes there's simple triggers. Like an example I gave was, I could be perfectly fine with roads all the time, and then I have one car accident or something, and then after that I'm nervous, right? Like normal. I mean, I don't know if anyone's experienced this. You've always been okay, and then I had a client once who like could barely even sit in the car. It was just like, I feel like I'm gonna die. We cleared that out, that trigger, fairly fast, plus actively putting yourself out there and starting to be around a car or driving. And I've had so many clients with like I call them simple T, like nothing crazy, but just like some kind of like a little T traumas, we say, like a single incident. Those are a lot easier to clear out and clean up because it happens once or twice. That's a little bit different than sometimes the triggers that we have go into core wounds or old stories. What's another way we can call that? Basically it goes into our identity issues. I don't know if you guys have had the chance to go into one of the PDFs I've had about your core beliefs. I am unsafe, I am unworthy, I'm not chosen, I am responsible for this, I'm guilty. All these I am statements. See how very spiritual it becomes really quickly. And that's that relational stuff that's gonna take more time to nurture and heal through. But from my experience, we all have a couple unique identity statement stories, wounds that we're working through. And the more we know that, the more, if I'm triggered, okay, wait, what happened? It's not a car accident situation. It's not one of those simple T traumas. It's more like, I'm not chosen. I'm left behind. I'm abandoned. I'm fill in the blank. And I get to pay attention to that. As I say, time, place, space. You don't always have that ability in that moment right away. In your secret place. The Bible talks about secret place. That could be your inner chambers of your heart. And in your secret place, right? You go in and you start speaking the truth until your body literally starts to align. So we go into the next part, and we can become conversational together, is nervous system work. Same mentor was talking about she talked about the brain, and I'm not going to get into it, but women, we are designed to tune into this baby's nervous system, this, the cat, me, the next person. And it's like, again, it's our domain. The more capacity we have to regulate ourselves and hold ourselves and family and basically widen that capacity to hold, the more stable we are. the more we're able to show up, the more we're able to do what we got to do versus collapse, abandon, trigger all those core wounds. So now everyone's nervous system is different. And that's why I'll teach things, but I always tell you, ladies, tune into yourself. You're going to react differently than me. What feels safe for me is not going to feel safe for you. What's soothing for you might not be soothing for me. And the more we, again, like by nature, by default, we have to really figure out, like, Marta, what's Marta's nervous systems like versus Julie versus the next person, the more you're going to have that, if I could say, your territory covered, the more you're going to be able to have that rightful relationship with yourself as a woman. I mean, we can apply this to anything, you know, like what's sexy for you is not for me. What outfit is hot for you is not for me. But how else until we start to tune in? How does this feel? Does this feel right? Even using words like language. I'll say the word energy and they're like, oh, I don't. In their mind and their psyche and their programming, that just means something different. Versus someone else, the word spirit, they like tuning in. But believe me, you can shift around. One year you're like, don't use the word energy. And then next year they're like, it totally makes sense. I have peace with this word. They've recreated a new association. So again, I have another video I will be posting this week. But for the sake of today, guess what, ladies? Everyone who's on, you get to ask whatever it is that you want. Jump in, whatever questions, even if whatever comes up is relevant. You guys know this by now.
Gosh, I have no idea where to begin.
Maybe with your permission, I can ask a couple questions
Sure.
and probe.
Yes, just ask questions.
Okay. How new are you with from like the concepts to tuning in when it comes to like triggers and processing emotions? Where are you at? Just
I
give me
feel like I'm so much more aware since like seeing your posts and like hearing the videos and just being aware of my triggers. Like I think back to even just like when my husband and I first got married and like, you know, I'm comfortable sharing this, but like his mom does trigger me, you know, she's like, I've told this to my husband that like, you know, her personality and mine, like, I don't think we would be friends if we were both the same age. And like, she was a very different mom than I am. You know, I do see some similarities, but you know, she's triggered me, you know, since we've been married. And I don't think I've always been aware of that. You know, or been aware of like how do I process those triggers? You know, all the way up until maybe like, I don't know, this past year or like 6 months where, you know, I've maybe processed more with my husband and, you know, or even processed with her, like had some really hard conversations with her about, you know, things that have happened. But yeah, definitely still like new for me. You know, being able to be aware of what's triggering for me and to be able to kind of sit in that and, you know, think about like, where does that stem from?
how quick, not that it's a race or anything, but how quick are you to notice, oh, okay, I'm triggered? Does it take like a whole day and you're kind of out of it and then you're like, what's going on? Or someone else
Yeah,
notices for you, or
I think I'm aware right away, but I think, you know, it takes kind of some time. And like for me, I can get really in my head about like,
yeah.
you know, I can tell like my nervous system is very stimulated and it's hard for me to kind of brush things off. Um, you know, until I have a moment to kind of process with my husband about things. But I think I am aware, you know, after something happens to know like I can tell my nervous system is like I am stressed, I can feel it in my body. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad you have awareness. When I'm talking with new clients or oftentimes young clients, and they're like, what's a trigger? How do you know when you're triggered? Fair questions, obviously,
Yeah.
right? But that's good when you're starting to kind of tune in. I'm gonna come back to you, Julie. Do you mind sharing, if you want, obviously, right? What about you? How quick are you in noticing, or your journey at least with noticing triggers, or when you're triggered, or
Okay, well, I mean, I feel like how fast do I notice? I feel like I've gotten ever since working with you, I've started to realize when I'm triggered a lot quicker. And like actually very recently, it's one of the big changes that I'm noticing is I'm starting to notice maybe to catch myself so that I can calm myself down faster. Like even with my kids, I'll get I'll get triggered about something, and then if I'm able to catch it faster, because I used to just react and then be like, snap, I wish I didn't react that way. But it was already after I reacted the way I didn't want, the way I don't want to react. But lately, it's like all this information I've been just stuffing my head with is kind of starting to seep in a little bit, is what it feels like.
fruiting?
Um,
You've seen the fruit.
Finally downloaded.
yeah. And so now I'm sometimes like today was a fail. I got very little sleep, and like the window of tolerance was like this, and I wasn't even thinking about that today, but and then I took a nap, and normally I've heard some people wake up grouchy from their nap. I was like, that's not me, but then today it was me. Anyway, so today was
Yeah.
not a success, but it's okay. But anyways, my point is that sometimes I'm able to catch myself being triggered and able to calm myself down so that I don't react. Instead of in the past, it would always be such a quick reaction. Triggered, bam, I react. And then I regret. And I'm always really good about saying sorry, but I don't want to always be saying sorry. I want to learn how to catch myself, which I'm learning how to stop myself before I get that reaction. So
Good.
I'm the exact same way. I have two little boys. They are just like, yes, drive me insane.
I know you love them, can't live with them, but you can't live
I
without
know
them.
they like go to bed at night and you're like, I miss them. They're so adorable. But then as soon as they wake up in the morning, they're like jumping on your face and you're just like, here
Yes.
we go.
Well, you ladies brought up something good, and I'll even share too. When we're starting to realize I'm in a triggered state, it helps us when we do realize that either navigate or pause or problem solve. For instance, like I talk about your nervous system, fight, flight, freeze, when we're collapsed, when we're freaking out. I've made internal vows I will not make massive, big life decisions when I know I'm in collapse mode.
Mm.
As tempting as I am in those moments to be like, I'm done, this is not working, I have to remind myself, like, because this is part of that nervous system expansion. Here's how it looks like practically, and I'll even use it with business. I was listening to a video about this recently because a lot of people are talking about, these buzzwords now, nervous system regulation. That makes sense. Like one lady's like, you want to have a business, like you have to know, like you have to have certain belief systems. Your identity is not your business. Like, there's so much inner work you have to do with any relationship, romantic, business, doesn't matter. She was saying like your ability to hold is incredible. And I almost think like I'm looking at myself on the camera, I feel like God holding the universe. And that's my, my life, right? She's like, someone's gonna want a refund. Someone's gonna then buy your program and say it changed their life. Then the next person, buys your program or whatever, and then they drop out. And then, there's always gonna be something happening, right? You just made a bunch of money, all of a sudden you realize you have this huge bill somewhere else. It's this constant. It's no different than family life, right? It's like, wow, everything's going right with kids. I love my life. And then the next thing is the kid drops something and now their whole world is over that whole day, and the more we can hold and regulate ourselves and be like, hey, this is not the end of the world. No, this does not mean I'm a bad mom. No, this does not mean that I'm quitting all my businesses and closing my licenses, right? The more we start to expand, and when I started to get into my patterns, and I'm still doing it, and God only knows what's going to happen later on with business, but when I started to notice, like I'm doing things, and when I'm like exhausted or something's not working out or whatever, I didn't even realize that at the time until I started to track it. When I get into collapse mode, like I'm done, I'm exhausted, that is when I'm like, okay, I could see why people permanently quit in this state.
Mm.
Because like the regulated, hopeful, supported, well-resourced woman, that she wouldn't be thinking and acting like that. And so those states that we talk about, right? I've probably one of the best things I've learned how to do. That doesn't mean I don't enter those states. I'm a human being. We all have battery life, right? Is again, not make massive life decisions. Also, part of me reworking these massive, deeper identity things that we all have, like I'd say generationally, the stuff passed down. In my most vulnerable state was like before my period, with your hormones, with life triggers. There were so many times where I'm like, like I know I'm in the pit of hell, but like this is just when this is all blared into me. This is the depth and the abyss that I'm in, and it feels so true, but I know it's not. And pushing through and doing what you have to do until you clean something up, and you have a better day, better week. And so I'm not going to pretend like when we're doing this inner work stuff we don't hit the abyss, but I remind myself, like I've had some incredible moments where it's like, wow, this is where people do bad things in life. I'm not saying I've been there, but I'm like, I could see why some people are like, just I'm done with life. Because that's that mental, emotional, nervous system state. Now, the other thing I was gonna say, kind of piggybacking off of what you ladies said about when you're noticing you're triggered. So, we can go into our default patterns and never change. You can be aware of them and not change. It takes responsibility to change. And I don't know about you ladies, I'm here to have the abundant life, and I've realized I contribute into that. And I have my own patterns that I continue to get better at. And something I've noticed is any times I've had like a miscommunication with my husband, I could sit back and I could be pouty and I could be upset and then operate out of those old core wounds and isolate and do all these things that I'm like, I'm not about manifesting, creating that again. And something that I realized is more than likely I misunderstood him. He's not ever said anything to me where it's he's purposely trying to cause division or strife or put me down. If anything, it's a misunderstanding, right? And so I even had a situation like, how quick can we come back to this? So I've learned, like, oh, when I'm triggered, I get quiet, and I never even noticed that, if I'm being honest, before I got in a relationship. Because I don't have sisters. We all in my family, we all had our separate kind of rooms, spaces. We did our projects. If you're at like church or with friends, it's so easy to kind of like, if you're triggered and don't know it, to kind of disappear in the background and not speak up, and my personality's quiet, and I'm just lucky to be here type of thing. Yeah, that's not going to fly in a relationship when it's just the two of you and all of a sudden you're triggered and you're super quiet and he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, what do you mean what's going on? And so I realized when I get kind of triggered, my first response is start to fall inward. And I start to kind of disappear, kind of that flight mode, and more bigger cases maybe collapse. But like in flight mode, you're still oftentimes functioning because you have to, right? You're just kind of coping, busy, distracting yourself in different ways, right? And I realized how hard it's been to turn myself back online and have a conversation. And that's part of the mature adult nervous system regulating embodied womanhood that I've been working through. And I'm not going to pretend like it's easy, but I've committed to myself breaking patterns and having this union with my husband that I desire. And so we like there's you know, because I've learned how to be so solo independent for such a long time. I um he once made a comment about like we need to be on the same team. And I was like, why? I, yes, you know, try not to get defensive or flustered. He's like, no, I'm not saying you're not. I'm just reminding, like, we're one team. We're doing this together, right? I'm like, okay. So that's been something I've been intentionally trying to continue to open up and connect and be in union. Well, I
Not write poetry that is this long, and
Oh
so
my
I'm gonna
gosh.
have to.
So I'm gonna mute myself.
that's okay. So we were I was so excited one day we were gonna go shopping and there were some specific like button-up shirts we were looking for. I was so excited. We're gonna do this together. He showed me a photo of a certain shirt that he wanted, and I extracted what I did in my brain of what that meant. And I seem to be pulling out from the store every shirt I keep showing him. It's apparently not what he was thinking about, you know? But I'm like, no, I in my head, this is the category of and styles, and whatever he's pulling out, I'm like, there's no connection to what you've showed me. I'm flustered now, you know? And and he said something, and I didn't quite hear him because we're at the store. He's like, babe, we're just not on the same page. I didn't hear page. I heard team. And after I heard like we're not on the same team, I just was like, what's the point? Like I'm trying to do my best. I have no idea how I'm not connecting with you. Like visually, this photo you showed me, I don't understand. And I started to realize fell inward very quickly. And he was like, what's going on? You know, and I'm like realizing, whoa, I guess I'm triggered. And it takes me a while to even like come back online and talk to him. And I'll do what I need to do if I need to get some space. I need to breathe. I need to tell myself, it's okay. It's okay. Like you ladies are gonna figure out what works for you in those moments. But I finally was like, I can either um continue to sit in this or ask for some kind of solution resolution because I need help. I need help coming online and I need help connecting, and I'm relying almost on him and his nervous system to kind of help me a little bit. And I brought it up to he's like, what's wrong? What's going on? I don't understand. And I finally was like, it took me so much to like bring it out of me, you know? But I'm like, I have to like, and I'm like, you said we're not on the same team. And he's like, oh my gosh, that's not what I said. That's not what I meant. I said, we're on the same page. And instantly it just resurrected my nervous system back on. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, we're clearly not on the same page with this. And I'm like, yeah, we're clearly not on the same page because I don't know what page you're talking about. And I saw a different page, you know? And it was like, whoa, can you imagine? Like sometimes when we ask for help, for clarity, that level of vulnerability to connect. And if someone cares, and relationships in life, it's all about the repair work, reconnecting. It's not about you had an issue, you're forever. It's how do you come back? Oh, this is your perspective. Oh, this is your truth. Oh, okay. You know, and then it helps me open up. And I just thought about that, like how quickly that helped me come online and resurrect, which is another reason I really try to come back and say, hey, help me. My nervous system's struggling. And almost every time I'm always like amazed with what I thought was said was definitely not what was said. But girls, dive in, talk to me. What questions do you have? Where can I guide you? What's up? What's maybe illuminating something?
I like think about, sorry, go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Are you sure? Okay. I just think about like, when I'm in that place with my husband, we usually don't have that much time to process. Like, with two kids, and it's like, something's very triggering and we have a little argument or we're being snappy at each other, and it's like the kids are screaming, the kids are hungry, they're running around, we have to put them to bed, and it's like, okay, we're gonna talk about this later. Um, so I guess that's kind of like where we're at as far as like processing. And I do think like really identify as far as like, like a couple could say, we have an incredible relationship, or, we never fight, or we never raise our voice at each other, but it's like, unless you're experiencing that, like, opportunities of reconciliation, like over and over and over again, that like it's in those moments where you get to experience like we're on the same team and we, you know, are reconciling together and we're apologizing and we're growing. And I feel like my husband and I are really good. Like I feel like that's one of our strengths is reconciliation and like processing together. And yeah, I guess that's just my ramble, but yeah.
So you are in a season of, I know Leah, Julie, and you guys all have two little kids, except for me. So I'm not gonna pretend like I know what that's like. I'm just gonna be very honest with that. With that being said, I will at least try to offer something. You said that when you guys do have this opportunity, even if it's sparse, um, that those moments of reconciliation are helpful, correct?
Mhm.
How often do you feel like that's attainable or possible to have?
I feel like I don't know. I feel like we have like an argument like every day, but I feel like we always have that opportunity to connect. Like there's never a day, there's never an argument, there's never a trigger that goes untalked about.
Sure.
And maybe for my husband, there's more because he's not like, I feel like I'm trying to pull that out of him. Like if you're triggered by something, like I want us to have a conversation about it. I want to better understand you. But I feel like whenever I'm triggered, whenever I have an issue, whenever we have an argument that's maybe triggered by me, um, we like always will talk about it, maybe in that moment or at a later time. Very rarely in that moment because I feel like we both need time to kind of calm down and,
Yeah.
regulate our emotions. But I'd say probably daily, there's always something, whether it's triggering or something just to talk about and process together.
Is there any question, for instance, maybe you have or something you want support in, or you think you guys are doing pretty good with having conversations together when opportunity allows?
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's the fact that you guys are
Pretty
even like
good. I feel like,
pretty good to me.
say that again.
The fact that you guys are even having moments to be like, hey, what's going on? Those
Yeah.
are those, like, couples will find what works for them.
Mhm.
And the more you guys get in that rhythm, or in my opinion, the female really brings in that need, that desire, that like, what is she looking for in her nest? What's important? And, like, let's say if you're not experiencing something, or you are, being able to highlight that this is something that's important, and having him kind of create some kind of structure or frame where you guys can do that. But it sounds like you guys are already finding your moments to tune in.
I have a question. Unless, you're gonna say something else. Say
No,
something.
go for it. There's always something to say.
Well, real question since you guys are on this topic. So regarding reconciliation and stuff. So I'm just learning how to, so just I'm mad and just like spurt it out all over him. Like just, I don't know. I'm learning. And I noticed that's one thing I'm getting better at is being able to hold myself together a little bit to talk it out later. Cause that's not something I'm good at. That's something I'm learning. Cause in my nature, the way I normally am is if I'm upset about something, he's gonna know right away, which I, I want to change that. I want to be able to approach it in a healthy way. But my question is, actually, I want to add something really quick. It was really funny because you're always telling us about how guys want to hear how we feel. And literally we had a situation where my husband told me, I don't want you to demand I don't want you to demand stuff. I was like, well, what do you want? I want you to tell me how you feel. And I was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
That's just so funny. That's like literally the words that came out of his mouth. And I was like, oh, okay. That's exactly what you're going to teach.
Awesome.
But anyways, my question is this. I feel like maybe I don't have enough vocabulary to express in different ways how I feel. But I feel like if every time I was upset about something, I would just talk about how I feel, would it get annoying to the guy? Like, I feel sad. I feel upset. I feel frustrated. I mean, a few words here and there, but like, I guess my question is, does it get annoying to them just if you're just always talking about how you feel? And you know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's hard for me to fully express what I'm trying to say. Like, is it fine to sometimes say, "Hey, I would like you to do this," instead of, "Oh, I feel upset," or upset's probably not a good way to express it either, huh? It's more like, I felt alone during the situation, or I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, are you always going to be only talking about your feelings, or can you say like, next time I would like to see this?
Mhm.
That's a good question. Okay, so uh when there is a need, that's your opportunity to speak up. Also, vice versa, if let's make this positive real quick. Anytime you ladies are feeling something amazing, I also encourage you to share that out loud. Um, Meaning, like, let's say, I don't know, I think like there's a video I did on Eros one time, things my own, coaches taught me, and they said anytime you girls let in the man's experiencing what you're experiencing, not just the dense, the heavy, the sad, but the like,
Mhm.
wow, I just had this drink and it makes me feel, like anytime we're doing something that like lights them up, sometimes that playfulness, or when they do something and it makes us feel really good, right? Like, let's say your man did something for you. If you say, good job, it sounds like his foreman, you know what I mean? Versus like dropping in, and again, we're not regurgitating what sounds really perfect in our brain. I've learned how to like peel that out as high as my vocab can be. And it just like, how does that make you feel? Wow, that makes me feel so special when you do that. And you shine, illuminate exactly how you feel.
I feel like I don't have trouble with that.
Okay.
Just the same way I'm able to blurt out everything I'm happy about. That's how easy it is also for me to express what I'm happy about. But I'll give you an example. For example, there was one night where I had all this stuff going on, and I was the kids were taking forever to fall asleep. I lay with them I'll lay with them while they fall asleep. And Esther just took forever to fall asleep. There was like a super off week where our bedtime was like super screwed up. Normally, I try to have them in bed by 8 sleeping so that I could have some me time or some time with my husband or like cleaning or, whatever I need to do. But this week was like so off. I had all these activities, like, and they would go to sleep like at 10 p.m. with me, basically when I go to sleep. And so I was trying to get them back on this 8 p.m. bedtime. And so obviously they're taking longer to fall asleep because they're used to falling asleep later now. And I ended up laying there with Esther, and then I ended up falling asleep. And then I woke up and I was just so frustrated that I didn't get anything done. I didn't put the kitchen to sleep, which it's not like it's super abnormal for me to not put the kitchen to sleep, but I just really was set on doing some stuff that night. And so my husband, he's really sweet. A lot of the times he'll like wash the dishes for me, which lately he hasn't really been doing that, but there was like a lot of the times he does that. He'll see the need and he'll help out. He actually says, I kind of enjoy doing that. I'll just listen to my thing and I'll wash the dishes. I'm like, sweet.
Exactly what my
Anyways,
husband does.
yeah, that's the best.
That's like his like podcast time. Like you do the
Yeah.
dishes every night.
And so in this little season, ever since we got back from Florida, I don't know, he's been catching up with work and stuff, and he hasn't really been doing that. He's trying to go to the gym and stuff, so he goes when the kids are going to sleep. So he comes back from the gym, he wants to relax too. But anyways, so I guess when I got up in the morning, I really hoped, because he saw how like how much I had going on, and he saw like I felt like he should have taken the initiative to wash the dishes. And I got up and I was like, hopeful, like maybe I'll go downstairs and it's clean down there, but I went downstairs and it's not. Um, oh my goodness, I lost my train of thought. Where I was gonna go with this question. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I did end up saying, oh, it would have I would have felt so I didn't, I didn't start an argument or anything, but I ended up telling, oh, I would have felt so relieved if you washed the dishes for me. But maybe I'm doing this wrong. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. Maybe I'm not really doing this right. But that's basically just what I said. Like, hey, I would have felt so relieved if you had washed the dishes for me. And I think he said something like, oh, okay, next time I'll try to do that for you, or whatever. Versus maybe those kind of situations, it does make sense to say, hey, I really wish you would have washed the dishes last night. Does that make sense? It's like, am I supposed to just say how I feel, or can I say like what I wish you would have done?
So, okay, the reason I said in the first part about showing joy and stuff, because sometimes I'll do that. And so when you're only having requests and needs, that gets really, how do I say this, a little unromantic at times, like that's just how we get routine in life, right?
Right.
So good question, Julie. So here's how I'm gonna have you girls worry less about wording, because I know like someone like me that like I'll overthinking and then I'll just not say anything, or I would say this, as one of my coaches says, help him win.
I like that.
What do you want? So for instance, like let's say he does something and you don't like it, or it's not the key to your heart or whatever. You're not going to be like, you didn't guess what I wanted for tonight. I will let him know, like, hey, again, I'm not going to overthink it, because if I start overthinking, it's not going to help anyone. It's what you said, man. I was feeling kind of like, I was hoping to feel relieved, but I was a little bit kind of like, just my body just kind of dropped when I saw those dishes there, because I was so tired. If you're able to help me another time with dishes, that would make me feel so much more, I don't know, relaxed or whatever, fill in the blank. Like, again, especially when you girls are figuring out, it goes back to, this is not a script. It goes back to like nervous system, what lands and what feels good and what sounds like Julie versus how I talk versus how Marta, right? So I've learned it's not just, this is how I feel and guess what I want. It's like you're giving him data without demanding. It's not like you better clean this up every single time now, or don't you know, if I fall asleep early, because it's all about tone, attitude, and energy, and we get fixated on verbiage and language, and men's brain for language is just not as highly developed as ours. That's not a diss, it's just to say they'll really pick up on your energy. And so it's all about that sincerity, right? Like, anytime I catch myself, I want to like project something, or AKA I'm hoping he would have read my mind. I know I'm just doing myself a disservice by coming up with that attitude versus like, hey, and at the end of the day, this is what I have to remind everyone. Men are men, okay? When we talk about things like masculinity, they're like, my coach says the word maleness because they're still male in biology. Yes, we can speak to that divine, that king, that warrior, that like awesome leader that we all have, but at the same time they're also human, and so I've been learning still to be like, okay, like, right, like for instance, my husband just came from very, very long road trip. They were lugging trucks and whatnot. I was hoping he'd come and hug me, and he's like, I'm so tired. I barely slept in 3 days. I haven't even really eaten in 3 days other than chips and gummy worms. I'm just like, wow, what way to set up this encounter for failure. Like, nothing. And I have to be like, hey, human moment. I'm not gonna let any of my stuff feel come up, but I'm able to share, hey, I love, being greeted by, I love having a kiss. That makes me feel so, connected, united. But at the same time, it's not going to be, you better not be, eating chips and gummy worms because you're all about to see me and you have to have energy to see me. That's not, obviously I'm like super exaggerating, but this is how quickly people get into mothering modes because they want a very specific outcome. And so they're trying to coerce and control and manipulate, very unsexy versus like, hey, here's what I desire. Here's me showing my genuine energy, and whatever happens, happens. Life happens. But overall, when you have a man who loves you, I think Julie even has her own little cool stories. I know that 'cause she's not writing them in the talk shop about how her man shows up above and beyond. Like every time she drops down, takes a deep breath, says X, Y, and Z. Like, again, we're not sharing anything out of the energy of manipulation or controlling. And in fact, that's one of why another coach I had said, the reason ladies, they want you to like really condense what you need to say, not to say like you can't have a conversation.
I'll text you.
But the reason why she says bring down anyway, so she says sometimes when women talk so much, they're trying to prove something or get a certain outcome, or maybe if I tell this and this story and this, then he'll do this, versus strip all that away, then drop down. How do you feel? What do you want? And how can he win?
Well, I know you said don't focus so much on the wording, but I'm going to ask this anyways because I'm trying to navigate this. So, for example, say I did communicate with him that night and had I said, hey, honey, is there any way you can wash the dishes tonight? Most likely he would have said yes. Is that fine? I know you said not to focus on the wording, but is that fine to say? Like, hey, is there any way you can wash the dishes tonight?
I am not going to say, Julie, don't ever have a conversation with your husband. Okay. It's all about continue to speak and connect, but you're just watching your energy. Because if you're like, hey, honey, is there any way you can wash the dishes? That would really help me. Done. Then he decides, and that's that. Versus you're coming at him, let's say you're in your fight mode. Oh, like I was really hoping that when okay, instantly they just get like turned off by that energy,
Yeah.
right? So again, you know how you talk, you know how your husband responds, and it's just clean energy. That's all I'm asking.
I got you.
Otherwise, the overthinking, and then we sound so scripted.
Yeah.
And then it's not like that felt response anymore, or felt need, or felt whatever. Ladies, we're coming up to our 7 o'clock time soon, or our hour. Any other questions I can help you with before we wrap up? Leah, if you have anything to ask, let me know.
If nobody does, I have one more, unless you want to ask something, Marta.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Marta,
Yeah,
I just like I'm learning so much, even just from your stories and like hearing about your, relationship. There's always little nuggets of wisdom. Like even just hearing about the conversation of like, how do I respond to my husband when, you wish you wanted them, you wish they could have done something. I struggle with that so much. Like, how do I word things in a way that's not manipulating? And I just think like I've been in that place too, where like I wish my husband would have done the dishes, or I wish he would have done something. And it's like, I so quickly, will react. He never does this. This is so funny.
That's so funny.
Where did you learn how to say hi? This is like new.
There you go.
But yeah, totally encouraging me to just like leave this conversation and like how do I engage with my husband in a way that's,
Respectful.
yeah, not pushing it into a corner, right? And like attacking him.
I'm
And
going
like,
to add to that since we're here and Julie can ask your question.
Mhm.
I've had to notice again, like as a mature woman process, like A plus B plus, there's this sometimes this inner child in me that's like, well, you should just read my mind and you know, and it's like, if I'm starting to, as a result, get frustrated, get pouty, get passive aggressive, get X, Y, and Z, I always go back to this. How is this helping my union? It's not. And it's always all these little tiny quadrillion things that happen in life that, like, you know, is the pathway of union that you experience. And so I've had to tell myself, if I am not telling him something or expecting him to do X, Y, and Z, and he wouldn't even have noticed in his like male brain, not to diss or anything, but just like they operate different, right? They're not going to think the way we do. And I caught this and I have this and this is my timeline and whatnot. That's that nervous system. We're like regulated or connected to so many different things. It is a disservice, and I am, by me not speaking up and getting help and now being upset and mad, I am punishing myself. I'm continuing to suffer. And that makes my relationship suffer because I can't show up or whatever. So to have a deep breath and say, hey, when you have time, and there's always this asking for permission, because there could be something that we need to, and I'll ask, say, hey, honey, when you're able to, I want to talk about, you know, X, Y, and Z, so that he's oriented and ready to receive a little bit while I'm still feeling, you know, ideally certain things. So I'm not just regurgitating from my head. I'm still able to experience like, hey, you know, I love you. I just finally helped you. Said you would, and I'm starting to get stressed out and flustered, and I started to get angry. I started to feel anger, right? And as my coach said, like, he has to tune into your nervous system, feel what you're feeling. You know, I didn't say you're a bad husband. I didn't say you're a failure. I didn't say you're a liar, you know. Having him feel what you're feeling, that a lot of times, if a man is healthy and cares about you, it'll motivate him sooner or later, usually, to fix that problem. So you're not feeling that, so he's not feeling that. And that, ladies, was so hard and still is sometimes. But I've had a husband who said, you know, you can get mad at me. You know, in fact, I like it when you get feisty. And I was like, okay. You know? But so yeah, it goes back to that like union. I have to pause myself. Like even at the store, right? Okay, I'm struggling. I'm not present. That sucks. The one time he does go out with me, here I am disappearing, struggling. I care about union so much with this man. I am going to speak up and ask for help. Why did you say we're not on the same team? Oh, you said Paige? Oh. Oh.
Yeah.
Julie, what was your question?
The question was actually about that, about clothes shopping. So I've seen so many times where the guy gets married or he starts dating and his style completely shifts around. Like in a good way. Like they start dressing, I don't know, more stylish or whatever. And how do you approach that without being without mothering, without being, oh, like my husband, he loves comfort. That is his number one priority. Carhartt shirts are the way to go. That's his favorite thing to wear. Which right now with growing their company and stuff, they're going to all these business events. And I mean, he's a smart man. He knows himself. He wears like polos for that kind of stuff. But there's certain things. Anyways, I guess I'm not going to make it too long, but how do you navigate that situation where you're kind of, where you can kind of put in your thoughts of, oh, this would be nice or that would be nice, without being a mom to him and saying, this doesn't look good or whatever?
So, yeah, good question. I think it goes back to something, okay, overall, besides even clothes, although, you know, that's in that category, what's helped me is see the man in him. And when I remind myself this is a man, in terms of respecting him as a man, seeing him as a man, it sometimes like if I could say in a good way, kind of puts me in at my place. Because if I'm like looking at him, oh, you can't do this, oh, you're a little boy, then it makes me, my energy comes up here, and how, like, it doesn't even matter again what words I use, if that's the energy, it's how it comes off. Versus he's his own man, he has his own style, he's lived before you and dressed himself somehow. And I have been also navigating and learning how to speak about that. So for me, when he's just doing work stuff, that's his territory. That's, I put my hands up. And yes, Carhartt, blue collar stuff, high vis, all of that, words I never knew before. That's his thing. When he asks me for his opinion, I have learned to give it. Because being like, you know, believe it or not, my communication skills have really grown. But I've learned what helps him is if I speak like a mature woman. Hey, these shorts are too tight on you. Then he's like, thank you. I don't like, it's hard for me, right? Or if I don't know, he's put on pants before where I'm like, I don't know if it's too baggy, if it's supposed to be, I don't know. Is it comfortable for you? You know? You know, giving him that like sovereignty by giving him input. Or no, I think that like wow, these look really good on you. And looking like, again, reminding him like I'm speaking to this man, like, wow, this outfit looks so good, you look so clean, so fresh, wow. Right. And continuing to posture in case you're a man. There will be times where if he's like after work or for doing laundry or whatever, I'll be like, babe, I love you, this is stinky. Figure out what you're going to do with that, and let him make that decision. Not, are you sure you don't want to wear another shirt? Are you sure? You know, I've tried different like approaches, and then I feel so dumb after that. And he's like, I only need one look from him where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. You know, leaving. So, do you have any other like maybe more specific, or is that helpful, or is there still some question marks in that? I've had times, for instance, so when we go out with like people in public, relatives, we live like closer to my relatives. Most of my people kind of dress up somewhat like casual, kind of nice. And I remember we were going to go somewhere and he puts on, you know, Carhartt work stuff. And I know that's like the exact opposite of what they were going to wear. And I was like, oh my gosh, do I say something? Do I not? I don't want to mother him. He's going to be looking so different, you know? And I think like, you know, I can't really remember, but I think there was one time where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to let him do his own thing. I was like too afraid to even say anything for some reason. And we show up and he was like, okay, thanks for letting me know that I was so under, you know. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't want to take away from your individuality, you know. And he's like, we're on the same team. Like this is our thing, right? Sometimes if I'm struggling or if I need help, I before I was like a triggering thing if he would say that, but now I'm like, oh, I get it. Like we're together. He so values my input, and then he'll make his own decision. And so I've like learned, like we were gonna go out to some like, you know, Christmas family thing. I was like, okay, just letting you know, people will dress kind of nice, you know, kind of, you know, whatever, right? And like leave it at that. And then I've seen this happen before. I saw him once get dressed for something, and of course he just wears his casual stuff. I come out looking so bedazzled. He instantly goes downstairs and comes back. He's already learned to kind of match because I set the tone a little. And if he didn't care, then he wouldn't care. But he cares enough, and I've seen he values that input, that I'll say something, or just, you know, I'll kind of set that energy a little bit. So it's not for me, I've learned it's not about mothering as much as it's giving him information. And
Well,
then
what if it's something that you don't like that he wear, like for example, my husband bought these pants that I feel like are just too baggy on him. And I think I kind of said, oh, are they a little baggy, or are these, I can't remember what I said. I kind of made a comment about how they're so baggy. I'm not going to be telling him, oh, you shouldn't be wearing these pants. He can wear whatever he wants. He's a grown ass man, like he's going to wear whatever he wants to wear. But I feel like they're a little too baggy. And like for even like before he met me, he always wore pants that were so long and they would be dragging in the floor. And it's one area I helped him in is I told him, babe, those are literally too long. Like, let me try to buy you a size a little shorter and it's gonna be perfect on you. What do you think? I bought him a size shorter and he loves them. That's the size he wears now, you know? So I'm not trying to sound like my man, like some dummy that doesn't know what he's doing. No, he's a very smart guy. He's very capable of adjusting himself. But like, how do you navigate the situation where you feel like the pants are a little too baggy and you don't like the pants? Or if I used to have this style of shirts that he would wear that I just did not like, how they were just so like a parachute on him. That's how do you navigate those situations where you don't want to disrespect him, but you don't like how that looks on him? Or
So I think like part of that, I mean, I'm glad you're seeking for some kind of help, but at the same time, like it's never gonna be perfect. You guys are gonna have different styles. He has his own stuff. So here's a couple tips and ideas. I think sometimes adding playfulness into a conversation helps. So if it's like so baggy, that's so embarrassing. What are people gonna think of us? Me? Anytime we're bringing in this like I don't know, like heavy panicked mother energy like that. But also like this is where this codependency issue is. Not that it's codependency. It's like he's still his sovereign person and sometimes you have to like let go and let what he wants to do is his thing to discover. Because that's the thing. He might wear that in public. You might have already said, "Hey, this is so baggy," like or like let's say there's another pair of pants that are more fitted. You're like, "Wow, that looks really good on you." That's perfect. Like not it's not like hint, hint, wink, wink manipulation as much as it's like, hey, I really like this. Like, this is my style. This is what I like. And so, you've expressed, wow, this is baggy. And you never know. Either he really likes it and he's going to make the decision that's his thing and that's his thing. Or he goes out and then realizes, I don't like this. Or one of his buddies makes a joke and then he throws it away. So again, you give him data, you let him know as a mature adult, he's gonna make his own sovereign decision.
right,
Um,
and I'm not
I,
trying to come. Oh, go ahead.
well, of course, and I've told Tanner before, with like one time we were going through his closet, I was like, babe, like I love you, but like some of this is just not my style. Okay, we were going through our closets to give clothing away. And if there's anything I've learned and it helps me get really clear with my communication, and that feels so like shock to my nervous system, that if you realize if there's anything that irritates the crap out of him about me, it's if I'm being indirect, beating around the bush. He's like, I'd rather just have you tell me your opinion, what you think, how you feel, than be like, well, it's not really my style, but if you like it. He's like, what do you think? That's all. I'll make my own decision. I just genuinely not want to know. And there were these pants. I was like, I don't like them. Like I had such a hard time instead of saying it's not my style. He's like, just tell me what you do think. I'm like, I don't like them. And he's like, thank you. I don't want them anyways. But there will be things where and flip it for you. We're all gonna have outfits where we're like, I don't care what he says. I love this dress.
For sure. And I'm not trying to say like I want to completely change this, like he's
For
dressed
sure.
exactly how I want him dressed. No. But yeah, okay. Thank you for that.
It's not about how do I say something perfectly and get a result immediately. It's, hey, how do I offer something and then trust that my man will make the decision that he wants eventually sooner or later. Cool.
I had to do like a lot of hard work for myself just because I've been there and I still am there all the time. And like there have been seasons where like my husband would like get dressed for work and like I would make him change. And like it was like a whole argument and like he would go change and I was like super manipulative about it. And and I backed off a lot about that because there's been times where I'm like, okay, like let's get you some new pants. What are ones that you like? And we kind of like shop together. Um, but I've also had to kind of just take a step back and like realize the way that my husband has dressed in the past has made me feel embarrassed and to be able to kind of process through that and just realize like that's so silly. It's so silly for me to be embarrassed of my husband based off of like what he's wearing. And my husband, will do the same thing too, where like he realizes, okay, like how I'm dressed is not appropriate for the occasion, and it's like a huge learning curve for them. Um, but I guess maybe some like my little tip that's helped for me with my husband is like, you know, let's like scroll on the app or something. Like what are some like or I'll pick like, all of these options that I really like and I'm like, okay, which ones do you like?
Yeah.
And we'll go with those ones. So
Definitely. I think that the
that
women
helps.
women definitely have a lot of like creative ways. That's not to say he's never gonna go to a store and like buy his own thing, but I've noticed like um this makes me laugh. When I married my husband, before I married my husband, he claimed he was extra large in everything. And I'm like, I don't like large. Yeah. And he's like, no, extra large for some, And I was like, a lot of this, like he's tall, but I'm like, this is kind of like baggy. It's kind of a parachute.
Mhm.
And you know what I did? I didn't fight him. I just said, no, I think it could be kind of fitted. But I noticed he had a lot of just like regular scribbles on this and so anyways, I went off and I bought him a couple things and I bought him a large and kind of more fitted. It was really miraculous what started to happen. He started to wear all the things I bought him. And there have been so many times, and I'll bring kind of different styles. And I have this thing where I'll bring you a couple shirts and you pick like what's your style or whatnot. So I'm like, I'm learning too, and I want to respect your style. But he's like, look, you're good at this, I trust you. But I say I need data. Like, don't just say I trust you. Like, what colors do you not like? What specific X, Y, and Z? And I've noticed a couple things that I've bought him when I see him wear it a lot when we go out. I'm like, yes. But at the same time, it goes back to, and kind of like what you said about like not feeling embarrassed. He's his own person. And I made a vow for myself. I am not going to be that woman that like mothers and nitpicks and is my whole like social public identity is tied to his like outfit or whatever. I don't even think he dresses bad at all, but I just said I refuse to kind of get in the way of him and his personality and his uniqueness because I chose him the way he is. I think in a lot of ways men will kind of upgrade and adapt, but me just letting go of certain things and not getting like, again, that to me just takes away from so much attraction if I'm super in his business doing all of that. So just knowing when I take a deep breath and have some space with whatever it is that we're talking about. So still learning myself too, obviously, but
Mhm.
well, I'm gonna wrap up now. Ladies, as always, thank you so much. I love this session so much, your guys' participation and conversation. I'm gonna
It's a
aim.
vacation for me. Like I'm not with the kids. Like I could go all night.
Let's spend another hour.
It's funny how we every time I plan for it, I don't know if I should just not even like name these sessions anymore and just say open-ended, however it happens. Um,
Just girl talk.
Girl talk. So I'm gonna aim for every other week to not make it like too much. Eventually my goal is to bring in different people or speakers or someone who can share things. So we're doing, a variety of group things. But does this time work for you guys?
Yeah.
6 o'clock is good, but Wednesdays, like today was good because our family got sick and my husband didn't go. But Wednesdays, my husband usually goes to like a men's small group. So any other day at like 6 p.m. is great. If that's
What
And
about
not Thursday for me because that's his busiest day. He stays later at work.
Okay, I will maybe aim for a Tuesday. I know I have a class
Or even like Wednesday from like 5 to 6 is also would be good, would be
Is that
better.
fine for everyone, 5 to 6?
That works for me, yeah.
Well, let me. And I want to try to do something consistent, but we'll see. Okay, ladies. We will resume another time. Thank you so much again. And I am so grateful to have actually met you a little bit more in person, Marta. I just love
Yeah.
it. Now I now have like an idea and essence of who you are.
I know, it's good to just talk in person and yes.
Good. So everyone's homework. I'll give homework.
Like,
I'm going to say a little bit of the opposite of what we've been doing. Next time something comes up, focus less on the scripted verbiage. I need to say this and then add this and then, wait, actually, I remembered something. Remember how I said, say you're feeling, how this makes, you feel, your body feel, your inside experience, basically, and help him win. And the reason I say that is so give him opportunities to rise up and be that hero for you. You're not demanding, you're not saying, here's your hero opportunity. It's just like, hey, this is what I need, doing the dishes or however, and then let him be that hero, basically giving him opportunities. But homework for this week, and I'll embody it as well, not getting super scripted and just really dropping into energy and being very clear and clean about energy. Does that make sense? So next time something comes up, less about how it's said on the outside through your mouth and more about the energy showing up.
but then that means you have to process before you speak, right?
Well, that means you're dropping any agenda, any manipulative energy, any yeah, I mean you're dropping into how you're really feeling and really showing that.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Elena.
Blessings. I'll talk to you
Yeah.
later.
Take
Bye,
care.
girls.
Bye.